Thomas Jefferson, June 5th, 1824, a letter to Major John Cartwright. Our revolution commenced on a more favorable ground than the foundation of English or biblical law. It presented us with an album on which we were free to write what we pleased. We had no occasion to search into musty records, to hunt up royal parchments, or to investigate the laws and institutions of a semi-barbarous ancestry. We appealed to those of nature and found them engraved in our hearts. End of quote from Thomas Jefferson. And you will recall, in the Declaration of Independence, Jefferson says, nature's God. And John Adams had taken that phrase, nature's God, and X'd it out and replaced it with the Christian God. And Jefferson X'd it out and put it back into nature's God. And I mean, this is from the preamble, right? When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another and to assume among the powers of the earth a separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitled them, requires they declare the causes which impel them to separation. And then he goes into it. So very straightforward, right? So Jefferson, number one, not a big believer in the Bible. He said, Sir Matthew Hale lays it down in these words, wrote Jefferson to Dr. Thomas Cooper. He says, Christianity is part and parcel of the laws of England, according to Hale. He says, but Christianity was not introduced into England until the 7th century. The conversion of the first Christian king of the Heptarchy having taken place around the year 598, and that of the last around 686. Hence, here then was a space of 200 years during which the common law was in existence and Christianity was no part of it. We might as well say that the Newtonian system of philosophy is part of the common law, as that the Christian religion is. In truth, the alliance between church and state in England has ever made their judges accomplices in the frauds of the clergy, and even bolder than they are. He writes a letter to John Adams in January of 1824, January 24, 1814, excuse me. And it says, it is not only the sacred volumes the churches have thus interpolated, gutted, and falsified, but the works of others relating to them, and even the laws of the land. Our judges, too, have lent a ready hand to further these frauds and have been willing to lay the yoke of their own opinions on the necks of others, to extend the coercions of municipal law to the dogmas of their religion, by declaring that these make a part of the law of the land. Adams replied, he said, you and I hope for splendid improvements in human society. Hope springs eternal. 8 million Jews hope for a Messiah more powerful and glorious than Moses, David, or Solomon, who is to make them as powerful as he pleases. Some hundreds of millions of Muslims expect another prophet more powerful than Muhammad, who is to spread Islam over the whole world. Hundreds of millions of Christians expect and hope for a millennium in which Jesus is to reign for 1,000 years over the whole world before it is burned up. The Hindus expect another and final incarnation of Vishnu, who is to do great and wonderful things I know not what. You and I hope for splendid improvements in human society and vast amelioration in the condition of mankind. Our faith may be supposed by more rational arguments than any of the former. So you got John Adams trashing religion and religious people. You got George Washington refusing to acknowledge whether or not he's a Christian and saying in private to his friends that he's not. You've got Thomas Jefferson explicitly denying Christianity and taking the New Testament and cutting all the miracles out of it, and that Jefferson Bible is still in print today. And then here is the quote, in the Jefferson Memorial, there is this quote etched into the circular, right around the top, to the top of the memorial. And that is, I have sworn upon the altar of God eternal hostility against every form of tyranny over the mind of man. But unfortunately, that's a sentence fragment. That's not the entire sentence. The entire sentence is the returning good sense of our country threatens abortion to their hopes. Now, who is they and what are their hopes? And they believe that any portion of power confided to me will be exerted in opposition to their schemes. And they believe rightly. For I have sworn upon the altar of God eternal hostility against every form of tyranny over the mind of man. But this is all they have to fear from me, and enough too, in their opinion. And then he also, this is from his diary, he's talking about when he wrote the Virginia Statute for Religious Freedom and how they tried to insert Jesus into it. He says, where the preamble to the Virginia Statute for Religious Freedom declares that coercion is a departure from the plan of the holy author of our religion. In other words, by coercion, he's talking about a state, religion kind of thing. An amendment was proposed by inserting the words Jesus Christ, so it should read, a departure from the plans of Jesus Christ, the holy author of our religion. The insertion was rejected by a great majority in proof, now the great majority, he's talking about all the members of the Virginia House of Burgesses, in proof that they meant to comprehend within the mantle of its protection, it being the Virginia Statute of Religious Liberty, that it meant to comprehend within the mantle of its protection the Jew and the Gentile, the Christian, the Mohammedan, Muslim we would call today, the Hindu, and the infidel of every denomination. Judge Moore and Fox News are just plain old flat out wrong.